Last week on Gleeboot, it was Rachel's opening night, and instead of ending the series, they decided to devote half the episode to Sue falling in love with Chris Parnell, who we will never see again, and didn't end the show for whatever reason, even though these characters have achieved everything they set out to accomplish 5 seasons ago. And that's what you missed on Gleeboot.
Yeah, so listeners, I don't know if anyone noticed, I was kind of quiet. I wasn't really up in arms about things. Confession time, I had totally forgot to watch the episode until like 15 minutes, and I was like, hey guys, I have the most hilarious story. Forgot to watch the episode for the podcast that we're on. So I did double duty this week. You know what? Let's be honest. I skimmed through that last week's episode because I was like, you know what? I heard what they had to say. I get it. Skipped right through the music numbers. But this week, I watched the whole episode, and I'm prepared to talk about it. I did the bare minimum.
Great job. We did. So someone sent me this TikTok that was of someone who was like, my roommate watched every episode of Glee, but they fast forwarded through the musical numbers, which means they watched Glee for the plot.
And so
we were roasting this person.
Cullen sends this to our group chat. I'm like, oh my God, this person's a psycho. Like, what is wrong with them? And Allyssa swoops in and she's like, yeah, but Hannah does this every week. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. I am making fun of myself. But then I was like, you know what? No, at least I have a reason to do this. That person had no reason. They just really wanted to see the plot. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But hilarious TikTok.
Gleeboot.
So welcome back to Gleeboot. Subtitle: Cullen forces all his college friends to be on his Glee podcast. Subtitle: the show where we get drunk and talk about rebooting Glee one episode at a time. I'm Cullen.
And I'm Hannah. And Allyssa is again absent. She is in just overtime, removing Starbucks cups from scenes. She's putting in the hard work for a show that's coming out soon. So she could not make it, unfortunately.
Yeah. But, you know, today we have a very special guest to witness the assassination of Rachel's already not great character. We have a far better Rachel here with us today. We have Rachel Brown.
Hello, I'm Rachel Brown. The superior Rachel.
Yeah, 100%. We should put you in our the ballot. Like, who's the better Rachel? Rachel Berry or Rachel Brown, our guest.
They're two Rachel B's. You know, it's going to be a strong competition, you know?
Yeah.
And should we put RBG in there too? Ruth Bader gets
an RB. We can put Arby's, the restaurant. I don't know. I'm off the wall.
So I mentioned last night, or I mentioned beforehand that last night I did work karaoke, and on my way to work karaoke, like karaoke with my coworkers, that makes more sense. But I was thinking about how much of a cringe person I am. I was thinking about how I have a novel-length fan fiction, how I have a failed YouTube career, how I have a Glee podcast. And I was like, millennial cringe, peak millennial cringe. And then, you know, at least I'm not Liam Payne. I didn't do an interview with Logan Paul, so at least I have that. But some other cringe moments include the time in a RHA, the Residence Hall Association meeting, where I bumped into a table, and in order to be less awkward, I pretended to fall, because when you're tall, you're very conscious of the fact that like you're in people's way when you're standing up, especially in a meeting. So I'm like, I need to be on the ground so people can't see me. So I like pretended to fall. People were like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah," and I just like crawled away. But, you know, Rachel and I were coworkers, and we were called Team Awkward.
Yeah, I'm the founder somehow. Go figure.
The joke got overused, but at first, it was like a nice bonding thing. And I was thinking about so we had the orientation leaders, same job where I worked with Emily and Aaron, past guests of the podcast. And Rebecca, past guests of the podcast. We had to, I'm losing words. Oh, we had to work with the first year advising center. And I text Rachel reminders about that we did this every once in a while. We wrote raps about each first year advisor based on like a random sheet of information they gave us. Someone
I never have the heart to remind you that I wasn't actually part of the staff that year.
Wait, what? We didn't?
No, I think that was the year after I graduated. I don't think I was there for that year. Didn't you do 3 summers?
I did, but I feel like we did. I feel like I did the raps with you.
Well, were you a parent orientation person?
No.
Were you always a summer OA, just like an extra person?
I was always a summer OA. I was parent orientation the year after you, but I think we did raps when I was like
I'm just blocking out that part of my life. I don't like carry on with your story. I'm just ruining it. But
no, because I remember like discussing rhymes with you and that someone had a goldfish. That's really all I remember is that like we were rhyming something with goldfish.
I feel like I'm gonna need someone to recreate the rap. Like, where's the script? Where are the words? We need to recreate it, and I think it'll spark some memories.
Because I remember wanting to say to rhyme, Adrian Spitzer has herself a mister because she was
Oh my
married.
God, no, that does actually ring bells now. I am so sorry. My memory is like, you're lucky that I watched this episode we're going to talk about like today, because yesterday is in the past and apparently I can't remember anything. So great, carry on. Thank you.
So Rachel, what is your journey with the show Glee?
I mean, I think I definitely had cable at the time. It was airing, it was on TV, which is saying something because I haven't had cable for the last like 10 years. So I think I almost want to say like, I didn't even, it was at the time where, you really wouldn't watch it in order. It would just be kind of like whenever it was on, and I don't even know what the schedule was. So I don't even think I had seen every episode of the first couple seasons at the time. But but I feel like I was really into like all the songs. So sometimes like I wouldn't even have seen half the episodes, but I'd be like listening to their versions of the songs. So I think I came at it from the opposite of you, Hannah, of like, I'm in it for the plot.
Hannah, I'm in it for the plot, Sylvester.
I mean, that's kind of like the bulk of the episode. And I was like, okay, I have a reason. But like, honestly, if I had to rewatch this show again, I would probably be most enthralled with the music because the plot is so bananas.
I can't imagine rewatching this show again, though.
No.
Like,
yeah, like I was trying to rewatch it going, wow, half these teachers should be fired. This would not be allowed in my high school. Like, who is staffing this place? That's what I say when I watch it, but...
Yeah, just like a casual reminder again to listeners, there is an active caning policy at William McKinley High School right now. So
just because we're not seeing it, just because we're in New York,
doesn't mean it's not happening every day.
Yeah. So Rachel, did you take the BuzzFeed quizzes?
I did indeed.
What character are you?
I feel like I feel like I wish I was picked. I feel like I wish it was a different one. Who did you get?
I feel like you're gonna get Quinn.
I'm just gonna leave.
Did you get Quinn?
I did.
We have so many Quins.
No, I'm convinced that like I feel like there's always in those quizzes one of those they picked too many of like all the different tracks. We're just gonna lump them in, and I feel like that's Quinn because like so many people of so many wildly different personality types get Quinn. And maybe that's because
he's also laid back too, compared to all the others.
Yeah. And also like Quinn honestly has like no consistent personality from episode to episode or season to season, arguably, or season to season, definitely, arguably episode to episode. Like I recently commented Gleek of the Week, another Glee podcast posted Quinn or like what would Quinn for Bray do, the thing that Kitty had, and I was I commented like, "There's literally no way to predict what Quinn Fabray would do in any situation."
Yeah. She's a wild card.
Oh, also, I found this out from Glee of the Week's Instagram. I think it's probably wrapping up right now, but today, Disney Plus or like Glee, somebody hosted like a viewing party of the Glee pilot, like an hour ago, basically.
Why?
I don't know.
It's
Why
probably
the
the people who
pilot?
stand there and petition for like reboots of shows. Like it's probably some of those people.
I feel like they're wondering if they have enough interest for a reboot.
Probably.
I mean, is
But
it a
also-
dark joke to say, do they have enough of the original cast to do it?
But I mean,
I'm
would
sorry.
it be a reboot of like the original characters, or would they be kind of like just like getting a whole new cast of people,
Yeah.
or would it be a whole new set of characters? I don't know. All I know is that we are not actively petitioning for a Gleeboot. That's our name, and we are advocating that if it happens, they heed our warnings.
Heed our warnings and maybe hire us. Because I think
Potentially.
we could write a pretty sick jukebox musical teen TV show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
But like also like I feel like especially with Disney owning the rights, like there's already High School Musical, the musical, the series,
Yeah.
which is basically Glee without the war criminals. Like all the characters are just a little more well adjusted.
Right. Yeah, I ended up watching Glee today on Disney Plus because I was out in the living room and I don't have Vudu set up out there, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna watch on Disney Plus, and it's in like the scroll, like on the homepage, and it's Glee, you know, the characters, and then the subtitle in the scroll is "Celebrate Pride," and I'm like, Disney confirmed it. Glee invented being gay. Right there.
I thought Kurt was the first.
He was
Kurt
the first
like,
gay.
I'm gonna try something.
Yeah, anyway. But
Rachel, who's your Glee boyfriend?
Well, I feel like I got the quiet one, and we got Mike Chang.
whoa.
Good choice.
How many
I'm not mad about that.
we don't have many Mike Changs. I think that
No.
means you're a special gem.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You also got one of the least problematic Glee characters, probably the least.
Yeah, I mean,
No, Mike, not.
Oh,
Quinn-
Mike, I'm
Quinn is
hearing problematic. I'm like, Quinn, wait a minute.
yeah,
Wait a minute.
no.
No, Mike, because you know the worst. Mike's two main sins were the time he was a simp for Rachel in the body switching episode, and the time when he was like weird about getting back together with Tina.
Yeah, otherwise he's pretty chill.
Yeah, like
Safe
he had a
choice.
lot of opinions about Quinn dating Chase Crawford. But
Speaking of, I restarted The Boys on Amazon Prime because the new season came out. So my boyfriend and I are just like, we're just going to restart it. And then anytime the Deep came on the screen, I was like, it's Biff.
I like watched the pilot, or not the pilot, the first episode of season 2, and I'm like, I love this show. It's so good, but it stresses me out so much.
Oh yeah, season 2 was very stressful.
Because I just
Yeah.
I really like Huey, and I really like Starlight. And I think they do a good job. I think a lot of shows where they're like, everything sucks, like they don't have a character that you can still root for because everything sucks. But I feel like The Boys, at least from my mainly season 1 perspective, was like they create like a very sucky world, but they have these like two very good people
Yeah.
that you can root for and like want the world to be better for.
I mean, this is now becoming the Boys podcast, but also, I also think that like they do a good job of making people who are actually like kind of horrible people, like you get to root for them in like an episode that focuses on them because you see things from their perspective. And I don't think Glee is very good at that. So if there's going to be a Glee reboot, look to The Boys. I mean, they have some pretty terrible people on there, but you can weirdly feel for them and kind of root for them in their episodes. So Ryan Murphy, Brad Falchuk, Ian Brennan, if you guys are going to do this, look at that show.
You know, because I do remember I was listening to a podcast about the book and musical of Wicked on my way home during traffic. I remember when my uncle got my mom the book Wicked for her birthday, and she like tried to read it. It's a weird book. I've read the whole thing, and she put it down and she was like, no matter what bad shit, she didn't say shit, but whatever. Like, no matter what bad shit happened in your childhood, that like doesn't justify being a bad person to people when you grow up. And I'm like, fair. And I think that's where like a lot of the like Disney Cruella Maleficent and like a lot of like these re-examining sometimes falter is I think it's interesting when we get characters' motivations for why they're bad, so you can sympathize with them. But I hate when they're like, but I guess that just means they're okay. And I'm like, but like child abuse, like never okay, like, yeah. But that's, again, we're just going on all these tangents because this episode sucked.
This episode was so boring and like, yeah. And I got to the end and I was like, there wasn't like any music. And so I sat there for like 5 minutes trying to think of a song for like the best worst. So there's also that, like the music, not very.
The music in the back half of season 5 has been really rough.
Well, I mean, was it this episode? Because I did watch 2 episodes in a row where one is like at least 2 songs have no excuse being in the episode. Like the excuse is so terrible.
Yeah.
Like they create a whole event to have a song twice. And it's like, this is not necessary. Like this makes no sense.
Yeah.
They can't just say Glee Club and just, hey, a song, it's Glee Club. So I guess they gotta throw it in somewhere.
Yeah, like it's so
this show
shoehorned in.
Is really missing its framing device of Will's lesson of the week. Like,
yeah,
it had a simple framing device that really, sometimes they stretched it, but it generally worked.
It made sense as to like, and also like songs would be still shoehorned in, but like you could kind of see where they're going with like, oh, this song is sort of about this topic that this character is going through. Cool. But that's not happening here.
No, it's like barely a musical.
No.
Like songs happen, but it's not a musical because we don't learn anything about the characters through the song, which I think like Glee has done some really great like musical moments like Teenage Dream, A Boy Like That I Have a Love, yeah. Okay. What are we drinking today? I'm drinking a Truly Classic Lime Margarita.
I've got Topo Chico Hard Seltzer, tropical mango flavor.
I will complete the hard seltzer trio with a White Claw.
the holy trinity of summer.
Yes. The holy trinity of summer. Yeah.
And then bonus section of the podcast, Smash, Marry, Kill.
Okay.
This week's theme is rich girls. So we have our Glee character is Sugar Mata. She's from season 3 of Glee.
Miss her.
She
mysteriously disappeared.
She had undiagnosed Asperger's for a while, so she would just say mean shit or
self-diagnosed.
Yeah. And her dad may or may not be involved in the mafia.
Right.
We have Veronica Lodge of Riverdale, classic girl boss business bitch / my dad is an evil mob boss prison builder. And then we have the it girl, Blair Waldorf, Gossip Girl. I would marry Veronica because she's generally a nice person. She's a smart businesswoman, so we'll be rich.
Right.
Blair, I love Leighton Meester. She was great in that I Make the Good Girls Go Bad song.
That is peak millennial cringe right there.
Millennial cringe.
That really is. Anything by 303, that's who's saying it, right?
I don't think it is, but they're like the same, I feel like, in my brain.
No, it was it's gonna drive me insane.
I feel like when people are bringing back
Cobra Starship. Anything by Cobra Starship and 303, peak cringe.
But people need to bring it back to cringe edit. I feel like that needs to happen more, to remember that dark phase in history where I heard I Make the Good Girls Go Bad at a church dance.
Wasn't there like a hand symbol for that too back in the day?
Really?
For 303, it was like, I don't remember. It's something like this. I actually think it's this.
Yeah. Something like that.
Anyway.
Yeah, and then I'll sleep with Blair, and then Sugar, she's super annoying. I'm murdering her, Sugar.
Yeah. I think I have the same answers. Fun fact, Camila Mendez is just a couple days younger than me. Fun fact. Blair Waldorf. I like Leighton Meester, I agree, but also her character seems pretty terrible. Didn't realize she was technically a princess. Fun fact. Never got very far in that show. Yeah, I'm killing Sugar. Although I am not the cause of her mysterious disappearance.
That was Will Schuester.
Yes.
Rachel, who's your rich girl?
Oh boy. Well, I can tell that during my reading of the Wikipedia summaries of the plots of Glee, I don't remember who Suga is, so I'm just gonna kill her.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
That's funny that she's not even in any of the summaries.
Well, she has such a minimal impact. Her only impact is that like her existence brings Adele Dazeem, Adina Menzel, Elsa Queen of Arundel, Elphaba the Wind Witch of the West, Rachel's mom, Shelby Corcoran to McKinley, and she makes the Trouble Tones. But then the Trouble Tones are dominated by Santana and Mercedes. So Sugar kind of disappears, except for like throwing a Halloween party and briefly dating Rory. Another character who made no impact.
Yeah, I mean, I skimmed through some of them, so it's she's a distant memory apparently, but I'm gonna actually say I think I'd rather marry Blair and just sleep with Veronica. That would be my answer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Veronica is a lot.
Well, I just think I feel more familiar with Blair, and then just her style. Like I could just imagine just borrowing some clothes if I ever was her size, but the idea is there,
The thought that counts.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So let's get into the episode. Season 5. I almost said season 7. That's what it feels like. Season 5, episode 18, The Backup Plan.
Not to be confused with the J-Lo movie of the same name, right? Where she's like pregnant.
Was that Plan B? It's called The Backup Plan?
Yeah. Should have been called Plan B, if I'm honest. Alex O'Loughlin of Hawaii Five-0 fame and J-Lo. She's like pregnant with twins and they fall in love, and it's a thing. It's a rom-com that happened. It's mediocre.
I was just thinking how happy I am to not be watching the new Top Gun right now.
Oh yeah, I thank God every second now, because although weirdly I've heard that it's got like pretty good reviews. I've heard some good things.
Good reviews, but I have no love for Tom Cruise.
No, I hate Tom Cruise. He has a tooth in the center of his face. I say this every time I talk about Tom Cruise because I hate him so much and I hate his tooth. But also he used to have really jacked up teeth. So I guess like that's kind of better because his teeth were like all over the place. They were a mess.
But he's been terrible to like all his wives and children, basically. From the little I know.
He's a Scientologist.
Yeah.
Best friend with David Miscavige. So.
And what's interesting about that movie is how the original love interest was not asked back. The actress. Oh. They have a new, younger, hotter woman.
Gross.
And the actress was like, yeah, they didn't ask me back because I'm old and fat. Like, she's like, I'm not offended. It's just like, I'm not going to spend my life trying to look that way. Yeah. I look like a woman my age typically looks. And so they're not going to put me in that kind of movie.
Right.
That's just so shit.
And the director is like, well, we wanted to go somewhere new, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, it just points out like this thing in our culture of young man, old man, young woman, and how we like, how these love interests, so many of these female love interests in these action movies are so disposable.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give Glee some props. Bring it back to Glee. At least Rachel is more than a disposable love interest. She's a nightmare protagonist that we're stuck with.
Thank God.
But like, in a way, is like a slight feminist upgrade, because no matter how like not sexy or like not good Rachel is, like we're still kind of expected to root for her as a complicated character, which is something that is often a luxury that is often given to male characters, but less so often given to women.
True. Yeah. I just think this episode is really strange because she says some really bananas things about her dreams and then also like what people who go to Broadway want. It's it's like, who is she? It's like I've never met this character before.
Yeah.
I couldn't get over they kept saying like, honey, you have a face for radio. And I'm like, we're looking at the same person, are we not?
Yeah.
Like, he's gorgeous. Like,
that's been like one of the conceits of the show is like, Leah Michele isn't one of the pretty girls. She's like the underdog. And like, when she was wearing her reindeer sweaters, I could like suspend my disbelief, right? Like, okay, she's like the quirky girl. Cause like, that's what all TV does. At least they didn't make her wear weird glasses or something, like, but now that she's like dressing like a very like stylish, fashionable woman, it's like you can't show me this woman and tell me like she has a face for radio.
No. It's inconceivable, like especially with the focus on her nose. Like her nose looks fine. Like her nose is fine.
Yeah.
It fits her face. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it fits her face as like this thin, lightly tanned white woman with like blonde highlights. Like, I'm like, how is this not the picture of what was attractive in when did this episode come out? 2014?
Right.
Like, yeah. Okay. So let's talk about Rachel's plot, because we have 3 plots. We have Rachel, Mercedes, and Santana, and Kurt and Blaine Blurt. So I feel like the Mercedes and Santana one kind of connects to Rachel's, and then Kurt and Blaine are on like an island. No Sam or Artie this week.
Yeah. Artie's been missing for 2 weeks in a row now.
Yeah, not that I'm complaining, but
no. I'm just pointing out something.
He's still recovering from that STI.
Yeah, and him being at the film festival for his Bags in the Wind bullshit documentary thing.
That makes you think of Do You Ever Feel Like a Plastic Bag? And my petition to make Firework by Katy Perry the new national anthem, because it is less problematic than the one we have.
And to tag along with that, bring back Left Shark. Just remember, never forget.
Just remember.
Put
never
him
forget.
on the flag.
Okay. So Rachel is like, she's been playing Fanny Bryce for, I think, 46 performances, they say. So that's like a month.
Yep.
Roughly, because it's 8 shows a week, right?
Because Kurt says something about like it's been less than a month later on, but then I was like, I don't think that math technically adds up. Maybe it doesn't, because it was 8 shows a week. It's more than a month, just over a month.
So she's like on the toes of the town. There's rumors of a Tony nomination.
There is not. There definitely is not.
But she's getting rave reviews. People are loving her. And so she has an agent at ICA.
Is that a plane going by? Is that Tom Cruise coming in his like fighter jet coming to get you?
It's just a randomly loud car.
He heard your comment about Top Gun. This is where we are.
It's my favorite movie. So her agent at ICA, iconic actor Richard Kind, talking about how she has a face for radio. This is where it first comes up.
So, because she's like, I want to parlay this. I play Fanny for a while, have a good long run with the show, and then maybe parlay this into a TV or movie career. And I'm like, no.
That's not what you ever wanted.
Like, I could see her saying eventually down the line,
Yeah,
But
like 10 years.
I could see her being like, and then maybe be part of like something kind of new and edgy, you know, like play a big, like in an original musical, you know, with some Tony buzz, you know,
Mhm.
like I could see her like having
Like
these
the one
Broadway.
written by Jeremy Jordan.
Yeah. What was that
Mhm.
called?
I don't
Hit
remember it.
List.
Hit List, yeah. Oh, such a bad title. Anyway, yeah.
You know, like talk about like her goals, and then like you have a face for radio. So I'm thinking they're gonna tell her to have a podcast, the Rachel Berry podcast, The Life of a Broadway Star.
Uh,
Or even just like, oh, podcast, you should write a memoir, you know, like there's lots of non-face things that celebrities do.
yeah. Like I would have thought they would have been like, we need to get you in the studio to make an album.
Yeah.
Like,
Which Leah
that's-
Michelle has
that makes
done,
sense.
and no one blinked.
And that's something that like happens. Like,
Yeah, a lot of Broadway stars do it. It's not my favorite genre of music,
right. But it's
but
like
a lot of them do
thing.
it. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
Spotify recommends it to you after you listen to a few musical songs.
Yep. So yeah, so it's like he's like, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to be in TV. You don't want to be in movies because your nose is gonna be 40 feet long if you're in the movie because the camera's right here. It's like has it right up against. And it's like, no, I mean, if you think about it, we're looking at the TV right now. And the camera's not that close to her face. Like obviously he's being hyperbolic, but like it's still not that close to her face.
Yeah. And
I
then
don't
he's
know.
like, he keeps talking about Joe and Sheila and them, but don't talk to them, talk to me. It was very much like
her
a
team.
Hollywood parodying themselves.
Yeah, but the thing is that like her agent is in New York, and you would think she would have a stage first agent because she's on the stage.
Yeah.
So that's why it doesn't make sense.
Have like no understanding of how theater works, and not like I'm like a theater expert, but like just do some quick Googling, just have some like brief cultural knowledge.
Yeah, because like back in the day, people who got onto Broadway, yes, they wanted to get into bigger things, but that was years ago. At this point, like a lot of actors want to do a lot of different things, but like if you start out on the stage, like you kind of want to stay on the stage and build your footing in the world before transitioning
like
into something else.
Acting is so different.
So different. And you can tell that in her audition or on the was that this one?
Yeah,
this episode.
Audition. Yeah.
You can tell that later in the episodes, like, oh.
And that could have been an interesting way to approach the story, you know.
Yes.
But like there's so many actors who like just their goal is to be a musical theater performer, like to be on Broadway. And I think the problem is they gave her so much success so early on. There's nothing for her to really work for in Broadway.
Yeah.
Whereas in real life, like you start as a swing, then you're in the ensemble, and then, you know, like, and then maybe you play someone like you play like Glinda in like after the latest Glinda leaves and you come on, or you play Christine, you know, like all those, you know, and then then you're part of an original cast, you know, like it's so like I get that maybe they gave her this big goal too soon, but even still, like people are like, they do cabaret shows, like they're very in New York and about the New York acting life, and some of them do branch out, and then a lot of them then decide it's not for them and come back.
Yeah,
you know, it's just a very different world, different kind of acting. The way the agents work is different.
Like in the show, how this agent apparently forgot to tell her what the script was, what the story was, what she's auditioning for, really any actual information.
You know, part of me wonders though if he was just being nice and he had given Rachel that information and she was just too fucking dumb to like read it all.
I feel like that would have been part of the plot, is what I feel. And I feel like
she would
like this agent, you would have been like, why are you carrying in a boombox? Because she was carrying that in.
Yeah. That so cringe.
Peak millennial cringe.
Peak millennial cringe. But yeah, so like Richard Kind is not kind to her. And then this is when she goes.
I guess it kind of gives you like the motivation for this storyline, because he said you could be playing Fanny for the next 10, 15 years. And I'm like, that's not going to happen.
No. Maybe the next 2 years max, but like, no. You
know, like, so like, it's supposed to like scare her.
that like she's going to be stuck in that forever. And that's when she goes into, however you say the band's name, Avicii, I don't know. Wake me up.
Yep.
When it's all over. Not Bring Me to Life.
And not Wake Me Up When September Ends.
Yeah.
This song choice, the way it was shot was very confusing. I really thought like if Alyssa was on here, she would also be going nuts with me, because like she's constantly doing her makeup and taking it off, but the cuts are like weirdly fluid where it's just like, it's kind of like nothing has changed on her face, and she's singing and doing all these things. But it isn't until like, I literally thought like she was just like kept doing her makeup, and then I'm like, oh, she's taking it off and she's doing it again. Is she just fucking up? Is it just a one show just keeps fucking it up?
Moving the wig. They keep taking the wig and putting it back to show its different performances.
Didn't pay attention to that. But then it's like she comes out in like the coat and stuff, but like she's just like continuously walking and you can see like 3 of her at once. I hated that. It sucked so bad.
It's so very much Hollywood's take on Broadway that like, oh, it's so monotonous, you have to do it all the time. Whereas like theater performers, they do say it's hard, but they really love it.
Yeah.
There's like a magic to live theater.
And also, yeah. And then also the fact that she has been doing this for what, over a month, and she's like, I'm burnt out, which like I'm sure could happen, but she's literally like, I'm ready to move on to the next thing. And it's like, you barely have a footing in an industry. It's bananas.
Yeah, it's like when you get a new job that you're worked really hard for, this is her dream job. Like even when you get a job that's like nice and like in the right direction, you're like, like I know some people say, you gotta constantly be applying, but you usually take like at least a few months to just be like, to
get settled and to be like, and to partially get over your imposter syndrome, unless you're like me and you never get over it.
Well, like also like when you think like it's normal for people to work every day, and again I think a lot of people in Hollywood, especially the higher up people, don't really have to do that.
Yeah, but
like in most people, we will go to work every day.
Yeah.
Like, so the whole idea that she's like, it's so exhausting. It's like, well, that's what you do. You have a job and you're lucky that you got your fucking dream job before you even finished college.
Another way that she's just like completely unprepared for the professional world, that like, she just kind of assumes it's going to be just like glitz and glamour. And then she gets into it and she's like, this is boring. But then I think that kind of speaks to something we've talked about before, that like maybe she's not actually a true artist. She's just kind of in it for the fame and glory, because if she was like really invested in her craft, she would be more excited, I think, within her after the first month to like keep getting better. And
I'm really delving into the role. Like you're learning new things about this character, like.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because I had a very different take on that. I took it more of like, she's that kind of person who's got her head in the clouds, who really daydreams but really has no real expectations, no realistic expectations of what is expected to do certain things.
Yeah.
And for her, she's dreamed so much. And I feel like it's almost like it's like, and you got to think, it's not just those 48 nights. They probably had, however many months to prep and do this. So you've rehearsed. So you've probably done this at least 100 times by now. So when you talk about monotonous, I can't talk. English is difficult. First language, sorry. I think it can be very draining, if you don't have the right expectations going into it. And I do think she does have a little bit of that spoiledness to her, and she does need to be brought back down to earth. And I think part of that audition that she did kind of did that, of how good she kind of has it being in there. But I think that, she just was not prepared at all for what this was going to be like. And she thought it was going to be, who knows, but
no, she had high school expectations where you do it for a weekend and then you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, and I think you're right. She's a dreamer who's totally unprepared for the reality of her dreams, which is actually like a very, you know, we all know how much I love dreams. That's actually a very interesting like storyline to go with, especially if you're continuing the show after she achieved this dream. But like, I feel like they don't do it in a way where you're like, oh, I wonder what it would be like if I achieved my dreams and they weren't all they cracked up to be. Like there's a way to do that. Like that's a common theme in a lot of works of literature, none of which come to mind. But like, that's a thing. But like, they don't really, instead she's just like, okay, like I want something else now, you know, like whatever.
Yeah, which I think is fine as like because she's young and she wants to like try new things and do stuff that's different. But it just kind of feels like it just kind of points back to the whole like she's unprepared for so many things. Like we've talked about multiple times about how like she didn't even know like this dream school that she went to existed, and then she's leaving the school because it's not all it was cracked up to be, and now this isn't all it's cracked up to be, and it's like
maybe you're the problem, Rachel.
Yeah, like at some point it's like, why am I rooting for this character if she has no idea what she really wants, but not in like a compelling way, you know? Like I'm not compelled by that. It's kind of,
don't we all know that person who, like, I feel like she even does it as she fantasizes how her relationships are with the various people she's kind of been with, you know?
Yeah.
And I think she's just that very extremely head in the clouds. Everything just can never meet her expectations. She thinks everything's perhaps going to be handed to her.
As it often is in this show.
Yes.
And
so
like,
she kind of has every reason to think like that.
But yeah, I also think it's because it's literally her opening night was last week.
Yeah.
You couldn't have given, like, Glee loves its filler episodes. You couldn't have given us a filler episode in between debuting on Broadway and being tired of Broadway.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you could have put Artie's STI scare after her opening night, you know, like, yeah.
I wonder if the next episode ties it in better. I mean, I don't know, but
yeah.
Well, I'm going to dream a little too, maybe.
So yeah, like we've just been stuck on the opening of the storyline, but because it's so annoying. So she sings a song, and then Jim Rash, the dean from Community, which we had another social media post kind of blow up, and the Greendale Human now follows us.
As it should.
It is not an official account in any way.
It is now. Verified.
It's official in my heart. So he comes in and he's like, you were amazing. This was the show I wanted to see. Well, actually, I want to see something else. But, you know, this was the ticket I could get. And this woman was eating candy the whole time. I wanted to punch her because Glee hates people who eat. But he was like, which is so Hollywood. Oh my God, sorry. I'm just distracted by the weird place I live in. But, you know, but then he's like, but you were amazing. And I could close my eyes and I could picture you in this pilot, the Song of Solomon, named after the book of the Bible where the man is constantly talking about like boobs being like mounds or something.
Uncomfy. Yeah, he doesn't give her the pitch for the story. He's just like, you're perfect for it.
Which when you hear what the story is, you're like, how?
There's no way. And
she definitely heard it and was like, yes, someone has an interest. They want me to be famous. They see me as a star. She hears that and she goes right to LA.
Yeah. It also kind of concerns me that he's so interested in her for a role when also like she has no other credits. Like she's still super green. So like I know that happens in Hollywood, but it's just like it's more of the like Rachel's getting everything she could ever want, because it's this episode where she starts to say, actually no, I want to be in like TV and movies. I want to get that chance. Oh look, it presents itself. Literally walks into her dressing room. Why are there no people like saying like you can't go into this dressing room randomly? Like Just random people keep coming in. Like her friends last week during opening night, just
For security.
coming right in. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish people were just coming into my dressing room that I apparently have and offering me jobs.
Right. But so.
And at this point, I've created more content than Rachel Berry ever has.
Yeah.
Between my 3-year-long podcast, my musicals, my failed YouTube career.
Your boy Ryan.
So,
I've made content. My fan fiction, like
her credits include Run Joey Run. They also include a mattress commercial. Include
an unfinished performance of Rocky Horror Glee Show.
Performed just for their teacher.
Yes.
And then
one production of West Side Story.
Yes.
Funny Girl.
Now a month and a half of Funny Girl, which also includes, the multiple months she was preparing and, rehearsing, etc.
So it counts as one credit though.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's like, I don't know. Anyway. So Rachel fakes sick.
Well, so no, Rachel is like in the diner and she's like, I feel like I might be sick. I'm really stressed. I would like a night off. Not an insane request. It's actually very common for Broadway performers to take like maybe at least 1 or 2 nights off. Like I know the woman who played Anna on Broadway was talking about, I was having mental health struggles. Mm-hmm. They're actually really nice about giving me nights off and then my understudies shine. I feel like that's why understudies exist, why people have multiple understudies. So every once in a while they can take a night off to rest their voice, spend time with their family. There's many reasons people occasionally need a day off.
Yeah.
Maybe she needed to give more notice, but I mean, even still, like you don't give people that much notice. Well,
she was kind of floating as like, I might need a night off. And she already knew that this audition was going to be on Tuesday. And it kind of feels like it was at least a couple days before that.
Yeah.
So like, it's still a pretty good notice. Like,
understudy Broadway is ready. Do that all the time.
Yeah, like Broadway, like understudies are ready, and like his excuse is like, you're a star.
I've heard about Broadway swing performers do multiple, like they call them tracks, right? Where they're playing these, like we play these characters throughout the show, doing multiple tracks and like adjusting on the fly.
Yeah.
So like a few days is not unreasonable.
And he's like, but you're our star, and I'm like, if your show cannot handle without the star, there's something wrong. Like the show itself should be good. And if you're like worried about the show because Rachel can't take one night off, like there's a problem.
That is something, because I remember when Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella finally came to Broadway and my friend in college saw it, she's like, it's a good show, but it's mainly because of Laura Osnes and Santino Fontana. Right. And when I saw on tour, it was still a good show, but the Cinderella was like, her voice was kind of a weird match for the score. And it was that show, because I've seen other shows on tour, same quality. That was one where I was like, oh yeah, maybe it is like the stars that really make this. But that's why that's not considered one of like the great Broadway shows. It's a popular show for like community theater and stuff, which is great. And I love those kind of shows. I'm no shade to this show, but like, yeah, if you're doing a Broadway show, like, yes, a lot of them are carried by stars. Like they did the Music Man revival with Sutton Foster and Hugh Jackman, which is very much built on the fact it's Sutton Foster and Hugh Jackman.
Yes.
But like most Broadway shows, it's some people freak out when it's the understudy, but it's kind of accepted that like understudies are going to go on.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen like Wicked, like in Detroit somewhere, or who knows where I saw it. But I think if you hadn't told me it was the understudy, I would not have known that the lead was an understudy. It was fantastic still,
Yeah, they're so talented.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think like he seems very worried that it can't stand on its own legs. And it's like, ugh. So I don't know. But like, yeah, she's giving him kind of like a couple of days notice and kind of is like, I feel like I could get sick. And then
he's like, I'll call this Dr. Sugarman. He'll put you on a B12 drip.
Yeah, and put steroids right into your throat. And I'm like, So she's gonna come in with like this thick neck.
I also was like, as a manager, when you hear someone go, I think I'm feeling, something's happening. You're playing the seat. I need a day off. And then you actually call in sick. I'd be like, so you're not sick. That's what I would see as someone personally. So I'm surprised he didn't see right through that at all.
Yeah.
True.
Like something is there.
Yeah. Though I remember one day at work, I was feeling, this was at my older job, I was feeling super sick. Like I started to feel super sick in the afternoon. I said, hey, I may need to take the day off tomorrow. I'm starting to feel sick. And my boss was fine. Okay. And then I emailed them at like 3 a.m, like, I'm super sick.
Yeah.
Because I felt terrible. And then I get a bunch of, I'm sleeping in, and then I get all these like calls like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Like, we called so-and-so. And I was like, yeah, I emailed multiple people and said I was sick. And I mentioned it yesterday. So why are you acting like there was no lead up to this?
Yeah. Also, you have a right to take a day off if you're sick.
Yeah.
Without warning.
So anyway, so yeah. So then she's like, I'm sick. She's Karen. And then
she's like, I just saw my doctor. I have the flu. And he's like freaking out, the flu. Oh my God. And I'm like, little do you know, sir, what we have gone through.
But also, like, the flu is kind of a bad lie, because don't you usually need a couple days for the flu?
Yeah, at least, because like it depends on like the severity of your flu, but like her, like, okay, maybe someone who works in marketing and is like a desk job or something, like maybe you could get away with like 1 or 2 days off depending on when you get sick, but like
you have to sing, like you need all
she
your nasal
uses her voice
and dance.
Yeah,
like,
no, she's
just imagining Fanny Bryson like sweating through her makeup because she has the flu. Like,
yeah, it's nonsensical. But he's like, okay, Wendy, the understudy, is going to go on. And then like, while she's talking to him, the camera just like zooms out and you see that she's in LA.
Like the time and money these characters have to jet set around the country.
What I don't understand is why she didn't say, I am sick, before she got on that plane and was like, I'm sick. I cannot come in. Like, then that she'd be like, okay, I have the go. She didn't just like, she went to LA, calls, and like, I'm sick. And then, spoiler alert, is needed. It's just like, you should have done this before you went, because that would have made more sense. It would have been more responsible. Let's put it that way.
But she's not responsible. He does call her out on that.
Because she's a child. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. So Rachel is like, I'm ready for this audition. She comes in with her little boombox. And they're like, oh, this is Rachel Berry. And they're all the executives are, oh, okay. And she's like, I'm here to sing the most boring fucking song ever sung. Bette Midler's The Rose.
I mean, okay, I do actually like that song.
No, the song's actually not bad. But
this is a terrible context, and this girl cannot read the room. Like, Jim Rash tries to stand up like 50 times,
like,
and I'm like, Rachel, stop squint singing, like, open your eyes.
Like
slicing at their throat, like, please cut. And how do you miss that?
Also, they could have just interrupted her. Like, why didn't they?
Literally, like, push the boombox off the table, press stop.
And just be like, oh, Rachel, we don't need you to sing. Just blurt it out.
Yep. Don't make her go through the whole thing.
She even press play. Why do you have a boombox? Why was that not the first?
And the reason why they didn't give her the script, because she had an excuse they had an excuse. The show had an excuse to just shoehorn a song in there.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I was like, that's not even a good excuse. And they made her sing like most of the song. And I was like, not an excuse for this. She should have got 3 bars.
This song gives me like church/Celtic woman vibes.
It's very like
which like I would enjoy. It's not a good audition song, because it's not like a theater song that's showing her range of emotions.
Rachel doesn't know anything about what is and isn't a good audition song. We know this.
Yeah.
So this is totally on brand for her, actually. But like, the fact it's completely like
There's
unbelievable to
no
me that
audience
no one
engagement.
no
Like she's not engaging with her audience at all. She's just parking barking.
yes,
was
it
waiting
literally
for
is like
someone
she's
to do
looking
the
at a
bird
wall.
Okay, it did make me think of that scene in Napoleon Dynamite.
Exactly.
It does have similar vibes, yeah.
I literally was like, okay, where's the interpretive dance? Where's the, where's the curly hair? I was waiting for it.
She should have had Kurt in a rose costume, like it's just so, yeah. And then they're like, this isn't a musical. And she's like, oh, I just got a title. I didn't get a synopsis or a script or anything. And I'm like, you didn't Google like the trades to see, like it's just so dumb. And like, he's like, oh, my assistant forgot to send that. They'll be fired. And I'm like, Rachel, your impact on the world has not really been great because now you're adding someone getting fired to sending sunshine to a crack house.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
that because there was another
bombs.
actor there too, like there to read lines with her. And she
That's
didn't
what I didn't understand is like,
why did he kiss her? First question. Sorry.
That's an excellent question. But like he is there, you would think she should think, oh, I'm going to be running lines. And she just like, no, this audition is clearly about me. And it's like,
she didn't get,
she's so green.
She's greener than grass. I knew you were going to say she's so green, but I'm like, it's true now more than ever. And there's no, like, I'm not an actor, but I know what a chemistry read is.
But also, I noticed in this episode, she was interrupting or like just going head first into a conversation without letting anyone else talk. And it was so frustrating because she comes to this room with her boombox and she is like, I'm going to just do this. And they didn't even get a chance to say no.
Yeah.
And then like when she's like talking on the phone for the second time after this, she's like zooming into that conversation. I just want to say blah, 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 blah. And it's like, let them talk. Like, I don't know. Anyway.
So yeah, Rachel, she's horrible in the chemistry read. I'll give her this.
That guy was also terrible.
That guy was also terrible. The dialogue was not good. The storyline was weird.
So the synopsis of the story is like, he's some sort, it's a space opera thing, but it also has like undertones of Grey's Anatomy. And then they're like, it's
Game of Thrones meets Star Trek with Grey's Anatomy element.
And I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
It is Hollywood making fun of itself. Because they love doing that. But
okay, but then they're doing this read and it's horrible. But then it kind of was like he went off script and just kissed her. Did anyone else read it that way?
I don't know, because she
kind of like looked at the script and was like, it just kind of seemed like he just kind of did it out of nowhere.
I guess it's supposed to be a chemistry read, but typically like maybe not then, but I feel like now like they take consent relatively seriously in acting. So like if you're gonna do something like that, like
especially since she hadn't read the script yet, and they obviously knew that, they should have been like, "Oh, this is going to be a kissing."
Yeah.
Because she has no, we know this about Leah Michelle, no improv ability, because she does not. She like her lips are sealed, which it's a woman being kissed against her will. I can't like give her that much crap, but
I think it was appropriate for the scene.
But she's like confused and like looking around. And it's like, you're not even trying to save this audition. Like,
yeah, no, she literally was. That's why I was like, so she doesn't have like the reading skills to like kind of start reading ahead. I know it's sort of like a learned skill as like you read a lot, but like she kind of probably should have developed that in high school.
I have that skill.
Like developing that when she was in high school productions, as few as they were, but also like doing Fanny, like she kind of would have been like, she's saying things that are up here, but she's reading further down.
It doesn't take, she would have seen that advanced of an acting ability,
So
I feel like the weird words were throwing her off though too. She'd be like, how do I say this? Like,
and they're like, just own it, which is a good tip. Like if you don't know how to pronounce it, just wing
announce it. Yeah, like you just have to read the word. You just go for it, So like it was weird material, so I'll give her that, but she bombs.
Yeah.
She does not. And they're like, I think we've seen enough. She's like, oh, I'm just gonna go. And then she sees she got 15 phone calls from Sydney Green,
the producer.
and she is like, I just want to reiterate how much I love playing Fanny night after night and how committed I am to this role.
Nothing wrong with her voice this time.
I was literally like, where's the cough? You should probably throw one in. Like, you're recovering.
And it's a split screen, so we're seeing the producer like reacting to this, and he's like, oh, I fucking caught you.
Yeah, and
doing
he's like,
something.
And he's like, oh, your understudy Wendy fell off the stage, which is how a character was murdered in Pretty Little Liars. She is not like, she can't go on, so you'll come on tonight. And Rachel's like, not. I think I'm still sick. She's just like, okay.
Yeah, like she should have been like, I'm still very sick.
And you usually have more than one understudy for like a lead role.
That's what I was wondering. I was like, why would they have just one? I was like, I didn't know necessarily that was common, but I was like, I would think they would have like another backup plan.
Considering how much money goes into a Broadway show, they have multiple people who can play multiple parts. Like you might be a swing for like Angelica and Eliza and I almost said Dolly Parton, the third woman in that show.
Penny?
And it's Peggy.
Peggy.
And she also is Mariah Reynolds. Yeah.
Yes. That's the thing. So you would be prepared to play 4 roles, and one of them is more of a major role.
Yeah.
Well, I guess 2 of them are more of a major role.
And then one is like 2 small parts that are always played by the same actor, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So like, I don't know. This just was really too convenient. And I just think it was like bad writing, but whatever. So now she has to like hurry up and fly back, and she gets stuck in LA traffic.
Surprise.
She calls a cab right away, and I'm like, that is not LA. Maybe this is before Uber, I guess, but like, I'm like,
I was waiting for her to like try to hail a cab and there'd be no cab, and
that would be kind of funny.
I was expecting that, and then I was like, oh, I guess she did get one. Okay.
So she's in the car with her cabbie, and
also an actor.
Yes.
LA. I've had a lot of career conversations with cab drivers in LA, or not cab, Uber drivers in LA. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then she calls Kurt, and
she's like, I messed up.
And Santana is also there, and Mercedes, I think. And she's like, I need help. I need you to stall the production because I need to get on a flight. And
I'm like, flights to LA are like half a day. From LA to Mission.
So she kind of mentioned that she's getting on a 10 a.m. flight. So that was my question. Like when I was watching,
the audition was at 10 a.m. I think. So
I heard 10 a.m. flight.
Yeah, when she was in the cab. Yeah, because I was like, okay, wait, what time is this audition? Okay, so she was there like really early,
which is very
audition.
Rare for Hollywood execs to be at work that early.
How did you get a flight so early in the morning to where you could make a whatever a.m. audition?
Yeah, and that's why I was like, wouldn't they be like in the afternoon?
Yeah, trying to get from LAX to like
anywhere.
Anywhere, let alone the places where they do those auditions, like the plots and stuff.
Yeah,
that's like 45 minutes to an hour.
So
rush hour in the morning.
So then she was trying to get a flight out, and I'm like, but she's also 3 hours behind. So if she needs a 10 a.m. flight, it's what? 12, so it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in New York. So she has 4 hours to like get through all this stuff. It's like, there's no way. Like, because you have to go through security, you have to get on your flight if you make that flight. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
And apparently nowadays you have to worry about if people want to like have their pet go in the carrier under the seat in front of you, or else they'll need to board the plane and you miss your flight. True story.
Oof. Yikes. But yeah, it felt, I was like, there's no way she's making this. And then Kurt's grand ideas are something. And then A bomb threat. I was like, yeah, Kurt. Yeah, do a felony.
Not the first time a Glee Clubber has done a felony.
To save your friend who is very unprofessional. And
who was, when he talked, he was telling her like, hey, like you've just been playing Fanny, and this is where she says, everyone on Broadway wants to make it in film and TV. And it's like, that is not true. And we don't need to rehash what we already said, but like, that's just not true. Like there are people who do, but a lot of people do it because they love theater. There's like a different element to it. There's that live energy, and like the fact that it's not like, it's not like a contained commodity that's always the same way. It's always evolving and changing. And one of the reasons I like directing theater as opposed to film is that when a mistake happens and it's a performance, you just have to go with it. Whereas film, you can perfect things into eternity.
Yes. Yeah. I think like, I feel like if I was Kurt, I would be so exhausted by Rachel. I'm sure he is, but like the fact that she's asking him to do something very strange, and
this isn't high school. This isn't Lexi's play in Euphoria, which was called Our Lives, or Our Life, the worst title I've ever heard.
It's just like, and also like he knows that like she's kind of like checked out of Fanny and trying to move on. Like I would be so exhausted by her being like, girl, like you just need to like settle in something for a little bit. Like you are greener than grass.
Like you be on Broadway for 6 months at least.
Yeah. But then Santana's there and she's like, I have the perfect solution. And she goes there. She goes there. She's in Rachel's dressing room. The producer comes in and he's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I got this. And I'm like, no, you don't. You quit before you guys went to tech. You quit like weeks before that. You probably don't know half the changes. This is going to be a hot fucking mess. And she's like, I got this. And somehow she does.
That's just not how Broadway works. Like you can't just.
No. Her costume, she and Rachel may be like physically the same size, like waist, but like height and stuff, they're like Santana towers above Rachel. Like that costume would not fit properly.
And like, I one time missed Tech Week when I was in Annie because I was going to Nicaragua for a church mission trip. And then I did mess up some of the dances when I came back because I didn't have Tech Week. And I was literally an ensemble member in a community theater production of Annie.
Yeah, not the star
of a Broadway show. Like the tech, the way this things move, like everything has to be done like so precisely.
Yes. And like she would not know 90% of the cues. Like there's no way. So this was just completely nonsensical.
And he's like, where's Rachel? And she's just like, Rachel's not here. I'd be like, did you murder her? Like, where's Rachel? Like, you can't just walk in. Like, how did she even get into the theater?
In her dressing room when she wasn't even there. So
she's like,
and then the producer's just like,
tickets.
He's like, okay, he should have just refunded the tickets. Like, instead of taking that giant gamble.
Someone could have gotten injured if your understudy fell off the stage. This is obviously Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark.
I just like, it felt like such a weird gamble. They're like, okay, let's do it. It was to give like Santana like a big win or whatever for her friend. But I was just like, I hate this.
So apparently Rachel arrived in time to do the second act and said Santana was really good.
No, there's no way. Because what? Okay, the show starts at 7.
You can't do this math. There's too many times on this podcast that we do the math.
Like, there's no way.
So yeah.
And also, was it 10 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern? There's a lot of even time zone questions here.
Thank you. It's so confusing. But anyway, Santana apparently nails it. The producer, or she like thanks Santana.
Yeah, so Rachel's like, thank you. I'm just, I have a couple of things. First, I want to say like, thank you. Like, there's really, you really helped me out. And then Santana's like, what's the other thing? And Rachel's like, well, what do you want in return?
And Santana's like, you actually think of me like that? And I'm like, girl, you have given her every reason to think of you like that.
Yeah, and Santana
even after you made up.
Santana's like, okay, yeah. And I'm like, okay, like, yeah. And then she's like, I'm trying to be a new, better person. And I realized the world is cruel. and cold, and like rather than trying to be colder than the world, I can be, you know, passionately defensive of my friends and the people I love.
Yeah,
Which
use my
is-
bitch energy to help my friends. And I was like, I like that idea.
Yeah, and this is actually a really interesting arc for the character. What really should have happened seasons ago, maybe.
Yes.
And
2 seasons ago, arguably.
And like, especially because what was going on in high school could have informed that a lot more than whatever just happened with Mercedes.
Right.
You know, like the whole maybe, you know, her abuela rejecting her when she came out, you know, and the Glee Club being there for her, that could have that I think would have changed her more than this.
Yeah.
But you know, better late than never, I guess. You know, these 2 actresses that one episode from now will no longer be on speaking terms in IRL are making up on screen.
That's interesting. See, I thought it had already happened, but
no, I think Lake of the Week told us, because when we were on their podcast, that this upcoming episode, written by Chris Colfer, Kurt, is where Rachel and Santana full communication breakdown between Leah Michelle and Naya Rivera, never talked again, and they never talked for all of season 6.
Yikes. I did have one thing that I wanted to complain about this little scene. It's actually more of a critique on Rachel in New York. Why the fuck does she always wear that beret? I hate it
Marguerite.
so much.
Oh, you said Broadway?
But yeah, so then the producer was, and apparently Rupert, aka Cullen or Carlisle Cullen
the
of
director
Twilight,
who we never see anymore.
No, he I guess is like, they've emailed her and like, you need to come to a mandatory meeting. Director's not there. And here I thought, okay, Rachel's really gonna get it. Like, she's actually gonna be punished for an unprofessional thing that she did. She did get kind of a good speech handed to her of like, you're acting like a child.
You're an irresponsible, unprofessional, arrogant child, spoiled child. And I'm like, yep, 100%. You read her to fill, Sydney Green.
I wanted to fire you, and I tried
I spent all day trying to fire you.
And the producers, the other producers, the investors, the director would not let me. So basically, you need to shape up. And I was like, so wait, she's not getting fired. She's not being forced to reevaluate. And I'm like, I was disappointed because, again, Rachel's kind of getting off very easy.
She always does.
And it's really exhausting and frustrating. But then again, I'm like, at least someone told her that she's being a petulant child.
You know, and because he also says, if you do this again, not only will I fire you, I will sue you to the Stone Age for breach of contract, and you will never work on Broadway again.
That's another thing.
Your
like,
reputation will not exist.
I kind of feel like her contract would probably say, like, you cannot accept auditions, etc., for like X number of months of the show, right? Like, wouldn't that be likely?
It might. I don't.
Or something like that, because like, as a marketer, like, I have to sign NDAs and stuff like that, which like can technically prevent me from taking on certain types of work. So like, I can't necessarily like take on certain types of work sometimes. But like, I would think like some sort of Broadway contract might have something like that, where like,
yeah, typically I think you do sign on for like a certain run.
Yeah, and then like you can't do stuff outside of that unless it's approved.
And they're a TV show. TV shows are famous for like actors signing contracts for a certain amount of seasons.
Yes, and then in that they have to get approval around like their shooting schedule for the TV show.
If they want to do other work.
Which comes, yes.
Which they kind of talk about before the production probably happens, or, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, like they negotiate that.
So shady, pretend sick.
And that's when she would have had an agent. She would have had an agent when she got the role, and she would have been like, okay, like before I sign anything, I need a fucking lawyer and an agent to help me with this.
They won't, most likely won't even sign you unless you have one.
Yeah.
Like, they're really gatekeepers more than anything else.
But then
they're the gaslight gatekeep girl boss energy.
Then all of that stuff that the producer said to her goes right down the fucking toilet. I was like, wow, at least she got it handed to her. And then she has the best thing handed to her. You know what? You sucked at that audition, but for some reason, we're going to give you a development deal. And I'm like, why? What did she prove in that to get a development deal for an original idea? It's like,
Yeah, you know how big you have to be in Hollywood
yeah,
to get that?
I'm sorry, but she's not that good. She's just not.
Yeah, and if she is good, she's good as a theater actor, though I did see that Funny Girl performance and was a little cringed. But like,
yeah, or like a record deal to do an album.
But like, I can't see someone being like, this woman could lead a TV show. Don't know what about.
Probably a high school glee club.
I was literally thinking High School Musical, the show again, but
I was literally like, is this where they're going to get meta? And then this like project she's doing is literally going to be Glee. So like, it's the show eating itself like a snake. Like, I
that
hate
would
this.
actually be kind of interesting.
It would be in the Gleeboot, but I have a feeling they're going to fuck it up.
Yeah, that's not what happens. But yeah, so like, yes, Rachel got off easy, but if that had been the end, if she just walked out and cried and like realized how she like had her dream and almost threw it away,
that would have been great. I actually think that would have been really great for her character to be like, okay, she's actually affected by what this person just said to her. Nope,
she just gets what you want. And that's the thing. That's why all of Will's alleged attempts to lecture her for bad behavior never land, because there are never any consequences. Nope. When she sent Sunshine to the crack house, Finn talked to everyone else about out of giving her a slushie. They should have slushied her then. She's singing "Won't Regret What I Do for Love." Her mouth is wide open. They're throwing that slushie in her mouth. She's getting a brain freeze.
So yeah, that's Rachel, right?
Ugh. So the Santana development comes from Santana is maybe living with Mercedes now.
I guess because like so it starts
in her work uniform.
Because Mercedes comes home to her apartment, which Blaine and Sam technically also live there too. And then Santana's like, "Oh, you're home," and I'm like, "You live here?"
Yeah, like
I would have believed that Santana's like, "No, I live here," and Mercedes would have been like, "Wait, what?" It's like, "Yeah, I'm living here. I can't stand to be around Rachel. Like, we're friends, but like, I still can't stand to be around her."
Which is fair.
Which would also like it would
mean you can live with someone.
It would make total sense. I would believe that happening.
So Mercedes walks in and she's like, they say they don't have any good singles for my album, and if I can't make one, they're gonna cut. I won't get a record deal. It's basically, I feel like it's a repeat of her last plot. About her record deal. It's slightly different.
She has a deal.
Or they won't market her CD, so she'll be a no-hit wonder.
But it kind of feels like that would be not in their interest. Like, they would be losing a shit ton of money.
Yeah,
they would kind of want to market it a little bit to try to make up some of that money. I don't know. But anyway,
so she needs a single. This is like, okay, valid. This is like a valid professional storyline. I'm struggling to find a single.
Sure.
Santana's like, we owned that choir room and we sang together.
Help me find my thing.
Yeah. So they go, and then they're like in the recording studio. It's like, we don't hear. And Santana's like, Mercedes isn't feeling the magic, and neither is the recorder or the producer.
The producer, I saw this guy. I was like, I know him from somewhere. And Lila's mom was watching with me, and she goes, "Wow, he got a real step down from the what was it? The CSI cleanup unit." I was like, he was in the original CSI show. He was like one of the scientists. Anyway, fun fact. Don't know what his name is. I forgot to look it up, but.
So Santana's like, you moved to New York or to get that bebop sound or whatever.
Yeah, whatever
and
that
this
is.
could be in Lima or LA or wherever. And valid point. It's just a recording studio.
Yep.
So they're like, we're gonna go and we're gonna get a sound. So they basically make a TikTok, but that's not what it is. But where they go around and they're singing this Lauryn Hill song.
That thing. Mercedes and Santana have had a lot of great songs together. I don't think this is one of them. I don't think it's one of the better ones, but I do think it is actually a good cover, but it's really tight to the original, I think.
Yeah. It's no River Deep Mountain High. It's no Someone Like You, rumor has it. It's no Survivor Will Survive.
Nope.
I was wondering if this single was going to be a cover or if she was supposed to have an original song. So I was sort of like, so you're going to
wrote that
as your first single?
I was like, so her single is a cover of this Lauryn Hill song? Okay.
Yeah, I was confused too. I was like, what? And they're like, okay, that was amazing. We'll just have to record like the single
in this
here.
Basement
Yeah.
or something, which is like, okay, that's cool. Cause he was like, who do you say? Like Bruce Springsteen, I think he said.
He put a drum kit in an elevator.
Yeah. And then that's kind of what spurred this on. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like I didn't realize that was a thing.
Yeah, and even if it's not a super common thing, like I can suspend my disbelief enough.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
yeah.
Is sometimes with their theater errors, it's like so far beyond like my willingness to suspend my disbelief.
Yeah,
I think this is a little more like it's looser. So I'm like, okay, I buy it. I'll take it. I'll take it. And then she records it, and then she's like, it needs to be a duet with me and Santana. And he's like, your first single is gonna be a duet.
Yeah.
And he's like, if you really want it to be a duet, because he's like, how are we going to market that? How are we supposed to market you? Like every point he says in this entire conversation, valid. You know, like it's art, but it's also a business. It's not just about your feelings, you know, like.
Yeah. He's like, it needs to be your story. And he's like, okay, if you really want to do it, like, let's try to get like Alicia Keys.
Yeah,
or
he says Katy Perry.
Okay,
singer of America's national anthem.
Yes. No, I don't think that's going to be what she's going for.
He says Carly. I think he means Carly Rae Jepsen.
But also, I don't think that's the sound she's going for.
No,
Alicia Keys makes sense.
Alicia Keys makes sense, but I wouldn't think I need an Amber Riley, Carly Rae Jepsen. Why wouldn't they go for like? Though now, after saying that, I want that.
I just kind of feel like they would have wanted to get someone from New York to help her with that sound. You know.
Yeah, like there's so many people. Like he's like, let me.
I think Alicia Keys is from New York.
Yeah, you know, an Amber Riley Miranda Cosgrove duet. You know, something.
I mean, did you get
she's literally from Hell's Kitchen.
To hide behind someone else so that way it wasn't her own thing. Like I don't know. I didn't quite get that
interesting.
vibe, but I wonder if they were trying to get there. But they didn't quite reach the story, but.
Yeah, that could have been an interesting story. Like she's afraid to be on her own in this new professional setting.
Yeah. And so like while this guy is like, hey, like we can't do this, like I think we should do this. And then, you know, if we record it, cool. Your next album will do that. But like he's making really good points and Santana's like backing this guy up. Like
she's like, yeah.
She's looking out for Mercedes' career instead of like her own. Like possible up in the world, which I thought was really fantastic.
Yeah, she's like, no, like he's right. But then she's like, I'm not worth it. And then it goes from her looking out for Mercedes, which is what I thought she was doing. I thought she was being smart because Santana's been a smart character.
Yeah.
You know, like I thought she was being smart, but then suddenly it's just, oh no, it's all she feels bad about herself.
Yeah.
I'm not worth it. And then Mercedes is like, Santana. And then she has a contract that Santana's going to sign so she can do the duet.
Yeah, so like Mercedes went against seasoned professional advice, which like could pay off, but also like his points are super valid. And I'm not someone who knows really anything about music or music production or music marketing. But I was like, I believe this.
Think of like people's first big songs, like, you know, Carly Rae Jepsen, Call Me Maybe, right? That's just Carly. Taylor Swift, it was like our song, you know. Katy Perry, I Kissed a Girl. I'm just like thinking of artists. Like, I mean, Beyonce did start in Destiny's Child, but like they were a group. It wasn't just like a collab. They were a group. You know, like I can't think of any artist that really got big. She says Macklemore and Ryan Lewis. Is she referring to Same Love? That song? Is that what they did together?
Maybe, but like, weren't they a duo?
What? Yeah.
Weren't they like a duo though? Like
they had White Walls, wasn't it? No, maybe.
Well, and I guess
I'm looking it up
because I thought they were a duo, like a band. But if Macklemore,
or American hip hop duo, yeah,
they're a duo. They're not like, oh, Macklemore was coming out with this this single and he wanted this person to come on, like, yeah, they were billed as a duo from the beginning.
Yeah. So like if Mercedes wanted to do like a 2-woman group with her and Santana, that would
That'd be
actually
different.
like be really cool. But like that's not the deal that she got.
Yeah, exactly.
So it
I don't know.
makes no sense.
And I think I liked his point of, he was naming famous people to do that with, for a duet. But like, because I feel like there are some newer
Free
people that, of course, I
marketing.
can't name any right now. But like, there's people who like their very first like few singles are all like a song featuring this person, featuring that person. And
That's
yeah,
how or you'll feature on someone else's album.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's I think it's pretty common with rappers. That's kind of a big thing. But like Mercedes isn't a rapper. She's does like R&B, hip hop stuff. So, but I mean, I don't know. I think that it's weird because like it was a story about Mercedes' struggle that kind of became about Santana, and I didn't quite really get that until like just now.
But like I feel like Mercedes' storylines never get to be hers. She never gets to triumph over something. She never gets to, like, her storyline with Sam, like the one about waiting till marriage, like the triumph had to be Sam saying he's going to do it. During Night of Neglect, when she was like wanting her moment, it became about Rachel giving it to her. When they were fighting over Maria, like at that whole result, like Mercedes had to lose.
Rachel was gonna help like share with her. Yeah. And it also was like kind of strange. Like Mercedes has these backup singers that are like her friends. They're not really involved in this, which I thought was kind of strange. Like obviously like they're kind of probably one-off characters, but like logically it would have made more sense. But also she recorded a record before.
Yeah.
And she did it by herself. Like what is it that has kind of shifted? But we don't get that because like we have to focus on how this is impacting Santana. That matters more apparently.
Which is just, it just is because Santana fits like a more standard beauty standard, I guess. Like she's closer to like a Hollywood type. And I think Hollywood has a thing where like those people are given more humanity.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay. That's really the end of that storyline.
Yeah, let's get to actually the most bizarre storyline.
Okay.
This storyline.
June Dalloway is played by who? I know this actress.
Shirley MacLaine.
Shirley MacLaine. The main thing I knew about the actress is that she was too good for the role.
I said that as soon as she stepped on screen. I was like, she's too good for this.
She's, Shirley MacLaine, season 2 Glee. Yeah. Late season 5 Glee. Shirley MacLaine has not been.
They did her dirty.
She's not been watching. They're just like Glee. She's like, oh, that was a big show.
She probably had like
was on it. Sure.
Probably had like grandkids who like still watch the show or something. Like, yeah, grandma, do it.
Yeah, she was like, okay, but she has not watched Glee since like
just like
season
June
1,
Squibb is gonna
5.
be. June Squibb is about to be on the next episode.
Yeah.
And like also another really fantastic actress for some reason on the show. So
Ryan Murphy was pulling favors.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is an actor in this storyline who I don't think is given a name. I don't think he has any lines, but he's a relatively famous person, and he's basically like collecting credit cards.
Oh, the guy that they sat with at the gala?
No.
The other guy, just the guy collecting credit cards.
Yes, that is Eric Roberts, Julia Roberts' brother, Emma Roberts' father. He's like he's a pretty established actor, but has not been really consistent with work for a while. But I saw that, I went, oof, he got really reamed to be put in this no real speaking role.
Yeah,
but anyway,
he's a big fan. He just really wanted to just be there. Maybe
maybe it was part of a deal so Emma Roberts could be Chanel Oberlin in Scream Queens.
Or maybe it was because, oh my God, wait, when this came out in what, 2014? Okay.
Scream Queens, I think, came out like right after Glee
No,
was over.
American Horror Story season 3, Emma Roberts was in. When did that come out? Ooh, okay, so here's what happened. I think Ryan Murphy worked with Emma Roberts on Coven, which was season 3. Yeah. And then she was like, hey, my dad really needs work. Do you have anything on Glee for him?
And Ryan was like, I guess.
Yeah, we'll put him in this tiny role. But anyway, Kurt and Blaine doing some things.
So they're at Miata and Kurt is like, the school is a buzz. And Blaine is like, we're at a drama school. It's always a buzz. And I actually really like that joke because that's true. And then he was like, June Dalloway, New York is coming. And he's like, oh, is that some famous Broadway actress I'm supposed to know? And it's like, no, she's a socialite who is married to a mineral lord or mineral baron.
Okay. This woman is in her 70s. I think there is no socialite at that age that a young man like Kurt is obsessed with. Like Paris Hilton makes sense. This does not make sense.
Well, even the idea of a socialite, like now I guess we have like the Kardashians, but they're more reality TV stars. Like even the idea of a socialite is kind of outdated.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
as cultural arbiters, maybe it's different in New York, but we're not in like 18th century France where you're like gathering in the salon of the king's mistress to like do poetry, you know, like socialites have been declining in their social role for a long time. By 2014
she's the last one.
She's the last socialite.
And to make it even worse, I did the fact check on her. She's 88, so could be even worse.
Yeah, so she was in her 70s when this came out. So I don't know.
Yeah, so he's obsessed, and they're like, he was picked, I guess, to do this performance at this concert because they're naming this dance studio after her, which is the one Niata room they have, which with a slightly different wall finish.
Yeah, exactly. And there's only one performance, which I thought was weird. You would think there would be like a few students who get to perform. Nope, just Kurt. And Kurt's like, I choose Blaine to be with me because we're going to do everything together.
We love each other and we do everything together. And I'm like, why are these? I know that these people are like, okay, like young, but like not that young.
I don't know. It was just really strange. It's like, well, when one door opens for one of us, it opens for both of us. And it's like,
well,
that's not always
necessarily
true. I've seen the last 5 years.
Oh, that's a deep dig. You know, that's true.
That's honestly how I feel like Blaine and Kurt would end up. That's not how they end up in the show.
Okay, but who would be who?
Blaine's the successful one.
Blaine is Jeremy Jordan.
And Kurt is Anna Kendrick.
Yeah.
Because this storyline has potential to it, and that it points out, you know, Blaine, especially as a straight man playing a gay man in the show, like is more straight passing, like has more mainstream appeal. His voice is less gimmicky. He has just a normal singing voice. Like Chris Colfer has a good voice, but the show has very much forced him into this gimmicky box.
Yeah.
As this male soprano.
I think the broad appeal is very key.
Yeah, like more people are going to listen to that. He can play more parts. And Kurt doesn't have that.
And that's Shirley MacLaine's business. She is in that business. So like they do this performance. And
the song that Kurt, drama school student, is like, I really want to do One Direction's Story of My Life.
This is a poor excuse to use a popular song. Same thing with Wake Me Up. I think they made that song even more depressing. Like it sounded so depressing. But anyway, this is such like ruining a pop song for the sake of it's popular. We have to put it in Glee because it's like really banging right now.
But if you're going to do a One Direction song as like kind of a musical theater piece, you would do Night Changes.
Was that out? Was that the same album?
I don't know. I just
don't
had a
remember.
story of my life.
Yeah. He pointed out that you're not 5 people. Why are you going to sing a One Direction song?
And he's like, we'll make it a duet. I'm like, that's still not
You're
enough.
still missing 3.
Not the same.
Yeah. They don't know how to do math. That's why they went to drama school. But it's just like, this is such the show just forcing popular music because like, we want this iTunes money. But yeah, so they're doing this performance.
Downloading the Kurt and Blaine cover.
Apparently, a lot of the Blurt shippers, obviously.
Yeah, but it's also like a very straight song.
Yeah, it's using like female pronouns.
Yeah, I was waiting for them to change that for some reason, to fit their story of their life. Be kind of cute with it if you were going to go that way, I suppose.
You would think, but no. But yeah, so they're doing this performance.
Sidebar. You know how weeks ago I talked about submitting my confession to the Glee Confessions Instagram?
Get in.
It's still not published. I check like every day. I feel like they heard me talking shit at some point and are like, no.
No, he wants to embarrass us.
It's about my jidership. But like someone posted a Glee confession that was like, it definitely the person just posts the confession, then they do their opinion below. Right. And they were like, okay, like this does need more explanation. But they're like, post season 3 Blaine was just like for people who want to like fetishize gay men.
Interesting.
And like infantilize them. And I'm like, you're gonna need to like prove that to me, but I can see it because like again, when they sing Story of My Life, it's not about them and about their love. They're singing about a woman. So it's kind of appealing to these young girls who love gay men for that kind of non-threatening. Yeah, they're non-threatening energy, but they still kind of want to romanticize them.
Right.
And that's, that cultural phenomenon was very big at the time. And one of the things that led to me coming out so much later in life is because the way straight women would talk about gay men as these kind of weird asexual objects. I was like, well, that's not me.
Yeah.
Especially the definition of girls without the drama, because I'm like, A, not a girl, B, not dramatic.
Yeah.
So they're singing this cringe performance.
It's so cringe because it's just the two of them with the mics. They're like jumping around doing very standard New Directions and choreo.
With the band doing backup vocals. So it's not even all them.
And then so Blaine is very smooth. He grabs Shirley MacLaine's hand, kisses her hand, winks, swoon. And Kurt grabs her hand and is like staring at her. I was like, why is he being so fucking weird? I was like, this woman is going to file like a lawsuit against him. Like, this is crazy. And he's just like staring at her while singing. And she's like,
It was so uncomfortable because he okay, you just watch Blaine just do the same thing. Don't repeat it. Do something different at least.
Yeah.
That was weird. I mean, you had the vibe from the start. She was not interested in Kurt. It was immediately on Blaine, and I was going, oh no, the whole time. Oh no.
Well, also they didn't interact with, Blaine kind of did, but Kurt really didn't interact with anyone else in the audience.
Yeah.
And
Blaine was playing the audience.
Yeah. So I get that it's she's the guest of honor, so she's gonna get some special attention. But you still interact with the audience, at the professional that I am. When I was in that college beauty pageant, I did the boy band lip sync routine. I did interact with the judges. I think did I take a sip out of Adam Panchenko's water bottle? I did something.
We'll say yes for the record.
Yeah, but I also pointed to people and sang along with people in the audience because people can smell a panderer. As a receptionist, I believe in I treat executives the same way I treat the assistants and the janitorial staff, and that's you treat everyone with respect because people can tell when you treat other people differently because of their status. Yeah, and that makes. If I was an executive and I could tell someone was only being nice to me because I was an executive, that wouldn't make me think well of that person.
Right.
It's just
brown noser.
Yeah, exactly. So That's Kurt's he's being a brown noser. He's
But
being
also
a weirdo.
Kurt's being really weird about it. He's like making intense eye contact, but like,
well, he thinks this One Direction.
and she's like, I don't know who One Direction is.
Yeah, she's like, is this in sync? And so afterwards, she's like, oh, I love, like, you guys are so talented. Like, or she's not you guys. She's like, you are so talented.
Yeah.
And she's looking directly at Blaine. And she's like, I really want to like take you under my wing and escort me to this event.
Yeah, basically to show you off to people, get the word out there about you.
Again, this feels like I'm in like a Renaissance art scene where it's like, I'm the Duchess of Montclair and I will patronize you to make nude statues of biblical figures. You know, like
yeah, it's weird. And then Kurt's like, oh, we would love to. And she's like, no, not you.
which was
Blaine.
funny.
I mean, I will say, you say that she's looking directly at him. I feel like she's partly looking at Blaine, but I feel like she keeps changing her gaze also to Kurt. So I feel like the way she did it was a little misleading.
I kind of read it as she's kind of like, why is he still here? But I love you, but why are you still here? Like, I kind of was reading it like that. But yeah, it's definitely misleading for sure.
Maybe apparently this means I am Kurt in moments where I can't read the room and I think I'm in this we. Maybe that's what you're trying. This is what I'm learning right now.
I'm part of the collective you.
So they're like, so Blaine's getting ready and he's like, like, I don't know, like maybe I could just stay in and watch Scandal. And Kurt's like, no, this is like a big opportunity for you. And when one door opens for us, it opens for both. And in this context, it makes more sense.
Yes.
It's very mature, which is rare in the blurt ship. So
yeah, but also Blaine does kind of go into the love bot mode when he's like talking about like, oh, we should just watch Scandal. He's like, yeah, but I don't want to do things without you. And I was just like, clingy much? Like, didn't you guys just have this problem? I'm really confused. But Blaine gets all dapper. He goes to the event with Shirley MacLaine.
he looks great.
He looks
Blaine
great.
looks great in this episode, yeah. Shirley MacLaine is like, these are the most boring rich people. And
the
I'm
1% of the 1%. They're horrible.
And I was like, yeah, Kurt, if you're gonna do a bomb threat, take down the rich.
Eat the rich.
Which is, you know, maybe what they should have sang. I don't know if there's an Eat the Rich song. We're not going to take it. But
yes.
But so like, they're like, she's like, I've written some fat checks at your charity events. What is this an event for? Did she say?
No idea. That's what I was like, what is this event? And then they're like getting money. It was okay, it's some sort of charity thing. Cool.
But like,
this
I didn't even realize it was her.
Is walking around and like taking credit cards and cash from people. I'm like, this is really awkward.
I didn't even realize it was Roberts. I didn't even realize it was her event until she got on stage.
Oh, it was her event. I thought she was invited to this event. I
I
just thought she wanted to get on
too.
stage. Like, I don't know.
Well, no, she's like, I wrote fat checks for your event, so it's your turn to like write them for mine.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
And I'm not talking fat like your chubby first wife.
Right. And I'm like, ha ha ha.
You know, which I'd say, oh, gross, but that is how rich people talk as someone who's been a golf caddy. I heard a lot about the virtues of a younger wife.
Gross.
I just remember being this 15-year-old boy and thinking, like, you're giving me very bad life lessons on how to view women. I was like,
you're very self-aware about that too, Cullen.
Like,
you're like, I should process this in a healthy way. So they get up there and they sing Take Another Little Piece of My Heart.
Which I love that song, and it always makes me think of in 30 Rock, they did this joke where they did the Janis Joplin life movie, but they didn't get rights to her song. So it's like, take another kind of chunk of my lung now, person.
It's such a weird song because also doesn't fit this context. I don't understand.
I think they said, Shirley MacLaine, what song do you want to sing?
Probably. And they're like, ooh, I don't think we get the rights to that, but you know what? We'll try for you. And she's like, well, if I don't get it, I'm not doing it.
And they're
So
like,
they
who do you,
got it.
I could have even seen this storyline being like, who do you want to sing with? And she's like, the cute boy, the cute one.
Yeah.
I'm doing a song with him.
And they're like, okay, well, we have to rewrite the whole episode for that storyline.
Yeah, because a couple episodes ago it was all about how the dynamic was shifting and Blaine felt insecure and Kurt was the one, and now it's back to the old Blaine is the sexy one, which I mean, yes, because it's during Chris, but like Chris Colfer's cute.
Yeah, for sure.
So they're gonna, so they sing the song, they get the money. And then, they're at a diner, I guess, or a fancy brunch place. And she's like, we should do a show. Or he's like, oh, I want to be you someday. Or I want to be you when I grow up. And instead of saying like, okay, weird, she says, well, what about it? Is it the money, the fame, the glitz, the glamour? He's like, no, it's like the fact that you get to lead an interesting life and meet these people and have these conversations, which again, charming.
Yeah.
Charming fits for like this young character trying to like see his place in the world, so you see why she's continually charmed by Blaine, and she's like, okay, we're going to do a show, like a one night only special event to like introduce you. It'll be your debut. You'll get like your second cousin to escort you. You'll wear a ball gown. So he's like, oh, but like maybe like Kurt could like sing a song.
And she's like, no,
but like okay,
shot.
what she says later crosses the line, but like if someone's like, I want to invest in you, I want to give you a show, you don't immediately start pulling favors for your fiance and your friends.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't want you to be like, you should be grateful this rich person to save you, but like it is sort of a sign of respect that like if someone's giving you this chance, you don't, or just like, yeah, but can I also add this condition? It's like, no, you don't do that.
I think we work in very different industries here, because I'm coming from like an employee in a very different kind of business, where if I'm negotiating a job, I'm absolutely going to be like, here are my conditions, take it or leave it. So I think it's completely different from this other thing where you have to take the opportunities that come to you, because they don't come that often, and you got to take them as they are. You don't have those opportunities.
But would you negotiate to be like, okay, but this other person also needs to be hired?
Depending on the role, I'd be ballsy enough to say yes. But that's just me.
Wow. I was gonna say, I don't know. I feel like
worst thing they'll say is no. That's how I look at it. But different industry, of course. Obviously, if it's a big chance to be in the spotlight, I think obviously that would probably be a little bit different. But
because like nepotism is a huge thing in that industry, right? Well, in a lot of industries, but like it's kind of like he had a chance encounter to meet her. And now like that nepotism is going to pay off for him. But I don't know. I just think, So the big thing for me was where she was like, yeah, you need to break up with him.
She's like, break it off. She's like, we fall in love and out of love so many times. And when it's the first time, we think it's the most real. That's not necessarily true.
This was heavy for like their third conversation. That's what I was thinking. I was like, wow, you barely know him.
She's like, you're going to outgrow him, basically. Like, he's going to hold you down. And, that is, I don't necessarily think that's true. I think it's an interesting conversation to have in a show where romance has always been a very prevalent element. And I guess, it's nice that it's not like Sue, like some evil character. But I think there's a way they do kind of frame it, makes her kind of a villain. I think it would have been interesting if she was like, like we need to really focus on you, and you're young, and you need to, I know love and like your engagement seems really important, but you're also building your career, and like things might change, like it still might not be like entirely healthy or acceptable advice, but you could make it a little less like
obvious.
I hate love.
It was
I'm
more
a
of a
woman who
comedy.
who wears pants. I hate love. Yeah. Okay. So Blaine's like, huh. And then so they're eating popcorn. We see Blaine at the apartment he allegedly lives at for the first time.
Yes.
I was like, whoa. So they're chatting. And Kurt's like, you haven't talked to me. Like, what's going on? Tell me everything. What's the gossip? And he's like, it's mainly just you and me. And then like, he's like, it's fine. And then Kurt's like, is she like doing something inappropriate? And Blaine's like, no. But he's like, like, we're gonna do a show. And then I'm like forgetting. I literally watched this 2 nights ago. But he does tell Kurt he made a part for him, right?
I was literally like, why? You're digging yourself a grave, son.
Yeah. I think he's like, yeah, she wants to do a show with me. And like kind of is like, I don't know if he says it explicitly or if he's like insinuating it and Kurt just like doesn't understand.
He does say it explicitly now that I'm remembering the scene.
See, I can't remember. I literally don't have any notes about this after the breakup thing.
But like to me, like he dug himself the grave. He could have just been like, she wants to do a show with me. And Kurt could have just been like, oh that's great.
Is there a room for me? Like,
and then he could
one
be
door
like,
opens for both of us, and he can be like, I'll ask.
Or even just like, she said no, and I did ask. And that could still be an argument, but he could just be honest. He doesn't have to be like, she told me to break up with you, but just like, hey, like that I asked and she said no. But instead he like promises something that she already said no. Yeah, it's
his own fault.
I do feel like this is like the showrunners or the writers being like, well, we gotta, they're too happy now. It's been like, an episode. Let's stir the pot again.
Yeah, pretty much.
Throw this in there. And it's unneeded.
Create random conflict using Shirley MacLaine.
Which, is actually one of the hardest parts, I think, of TV as a medium is that you can't put off a couple getting together forever because we want to see what they're like together. But then you have to find ways to create conflict that don't make you totally hate them as a pairing, which Glee often fails at because they do often create conflict that makes us totally hate them as a pairing. And it's hard when you don't have, when it's not like, I don't know, like a sci-fi show where there's like an external villain where like the conflict is mainly interpersonal.
Well, yeah, because we don't have that framing device anymore. And part of that framing device, it being the school glee club, is that Sue was the villain or like the other group was the villain. There's no villain in this anymore.
Yeah. Now it's just like adults giving them reasonable expectations. And that's the villain.
And that's so hard. I mean, like legitimately it can be really hard when you're starting out, but also like, it's like these people have never existed before this moment.
But like I was like, me starting out like making minimum wage and doing unpaid internships, them starting out in the entertainment industry, you get in a show, you get a debut show, you get an album, you get to be a lead on Broadway. Like, deal with the problem, people.
You get into a really expensive, prestigious drama school, even though you don't have any credits.
Yeah.
I was sort of wondering that. I was like, oh, okay, because, I kind of skipped around and jumped from, when you jump from watching, season 1, season 2, and then just go to 5, you're like, wait a minute, how did we get here? Where was the progress? Where were the struggles? Like, how do you already have, a show lined up, an album lined up? I was like, what happened? What did I miss?
Yeah, I mean, where are the struggles is still a valid question. And we watched everything in between. It's just everything gets handed to everyone.
So they that's really the end of the Blurt storyline.
Yeah.
I just can't stress enough how little I care about any of these storylines.
Yep, I think you said it.
Because again, this show is so directionless.
Yeah, it
doesn't even have one direction.
Boom. Yeah, it was only 2 people.
Like
not even 5.
Like what are they working towards? Like just success? That's arbitrary.
Yeah,
Well,
like
not
what
episode.
is the goal? Like we said, Rachel reached her goal. And now her goal is all of a sudden to be in movies and TV. That doesn't make sense, but whatever. Kurt's goal is to graduate. I don't know. I mean, it's a great goal, but also compelling. I don't know.
It's just like
Blaine,
even shows that have like generic people struggling to be successful. Not like I've watched a lot of Two Broke Girls. Not like I'm a Two Broke Girl stan. But from the little like the 2.5 episodes I've seen, I think they run a cupcake shop. So there's like some entrepreneurial thing they're doing to achieve success.
Yeah, that's their goal
They
is to
have
have
like
their
a
own
cupcake.
bakery.
They have like a cupcake
Yeah.
window. Yeah.
Yeah, and they work in a diner. Like How I Met Your Mother, like they're weirdly directionless, but like
Ted's trying to find love.
Ted's trying to find love, but also like he works as an architect and like there's stuff that comes up with that.
I mean, I really feel like from what I've seen a lot more of that show, and it really, the only through line really is
that. But like then it's like everyone in that group is trying to find love or figure it out. So like
yeah,
Marshall and what's her name?
Lily,
Like
yeah,
Lily, like they're together, finding love together. And so like there is some sort of direction there, even though they're kind of like it's kind of more ambiguous with everyone else.
But those are also comedies where the main premise is like we need to come up with comedic situations. Like
yeah, that is a sitcom. This is
a character-driven drama.
Yes, with comedic elements and musical elements.
So like, what is the goal? Because like the music's not even good anymore. Like,
just cut the cord, just pull the plug, end it.
I feel like it's one of those shows that they just kept running because, you know, people were like, oh, Glee. And so they just thought it would keep making money or, you know, I don't know. Those royalty checks from iTunes or something. I don't know. But
yeah, I mean, the iTunes money, like I think it was making money, but nowhere near as much as it was a couple seasons ago.
Yeah, that and I mean, also they had like a reference to Fox, like the network with Jim Rash in this episode. And it just reminded me of them like, oh yeah, that's right. They're like executives behind pushing this show forward, like making sure it still like goes. And it's like, oh.
I mean, they even had the posters in the audition room of like New Girl and I can't remember what some of the other ones were.
Yeah.
Those at the time.
Both the Deschanel sisters getting their paychecks from Fox.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so I guess is that the end of the episode?
I think it's Tina time. Not even mentioned.
Not referenced. Gone.
Not even on screen.
You know, and I think Tina, if Rachel had been like, I'm gonna, you know, jump off Broadway and go to LA, Tina would be like, the fuck? You got all your dreams. You took every solo from me in high school so you could have this Broadway opening, and now you're gonna throw it away because you want to be Rachel Berry wants to be a TV star? When has Rachel Berry wanted to be a TV star? I can hear Tony Award winner Jenna Ushkowitz saying those lines.
I also think Mercedes would be a good person to say similar things like, you took everything from me to become a Broadway actress, and now you're here and all of a sudden you want to do LA. Excuse me? Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yes, because that's the same franchise.
You know, speaking of which, Tony Award winner Jenna Ushkowitz had her baby today.
Oh my goodness, I didn't even realize she was pregnant. Congratulations, Tony Award winning Jenna Ushkowitz. And baby.
Child. So, okay. MVPs and LVPs, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Rachel, who is your LVP of the episode? Your least valuable player?
I feel like there wasn't so many people to pick from, so I feel like that made it like it honestly, it was June. I was like, this be trying to break up these couples, get out of town. So that was for me.
Take your bedazzled pantsuit out of here.
I was like, you trying to break up this beautiful couple? Bye. I don't need you on the show. That's how I felt.
I don't need you on the show. I'm writing that down. That's going in one of the social media posts.
I second that too. But I actually picked Rachel because she was extra insufferable this week. And I think it's been a hot minute since I said her. Let's see. Oh, I didn't even write the LVP down there. Didn't there either.
I'm going with Rachel too. It's been a while. I think she got MVP last week. You know, like,
oh,
but it's just like, yeah, she's throwing away her dream. She's just so callous, so irresponsible.
She's just extra insufferable because she's almost always insufferable, but it was just like a little too much. It's like it's something that's too salty.
Yeah, she's just like, it's so hard performing 8 shows a week. Well, what did you think Broadway actors did, honey?
She did not do any career shadowing.
No, and she should have. All these children could have benefited from career shadowing.
Or like reading a memoir, or like,
yeah,
we would think she would have read everything Barbara had ever said or wrote down.
Mm-hmm.
And Patti LuPone. Ethel Merman.
I mean, just like Broadway people, just like you would think that she would know these things and understand like what that experience is like. And she probably would have got inspiration to be like, oh, look how exciting it was for them. Like kind of channel that in her. But if Leah Michelle can't read, neither can Rachel.
Rachel, who is your MVP?
I feel like initially before we had this whole conversation and I looked at things a little bit differently since we've had some talk, I literally was like, Rachel, because well, one, team Rachel forever, one Rachel to another. But also like, I feel like although she's very spoiled and stuff, I mean like, to just have your dream, you finally get your dream and it's really not what you thought it was be. And now you think you want to do this and do that. And I feel like she's still trying to figure it out, as spoiled as she still is. So I feel like I was sort of appreciating that a little bit, but I feel like after our discussions of, you had some very good points about how she should probably be the least favorite character in some ways in this. So I feel like I'd almost have to say almost Blaine, just because he's just so sweet and he's just getting these opportunities because he's just a nice person and he's not trying to do anyone wrong. He's still trying to even help Kurt out. I think he's trying his best. So I think I'll switch it over to Blaine.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good point. He didn't have to promise Kurt something, but like,
yeah,
he really isn't very vindictive.
This is the Blaine we know and love, not the Blaine from Tested a few weeks ago where they assassinated his character.
Yeah. This is Blaine. This is really Blaine. I'm going with Santana, even though after our discussion about how basically the storyline for Mercedes kind of became about her, I actually did kind of appreciate that there was some character growth with her and the fact that she could have tried to talk Mercedes into being like, no, I think I should be on the record for her own gain. But she was like, no, like this record guy knows a lot, like clearly, like you should follow him. Yeah, I'm gonna go Santana for trying to do the best for her friend.
Yeah, I mean, I was debating between Blaine and Santana.
Mm-hmm.
Because Santana had actual character growth. We'll see if it sticks, but I think it does. Oh. And Blaine was
delightful.
He's just cute, I guess.
His bow ties.
Little bow tie, easy on the eyes, and he can sing, and he's not cringe when he does his musical performances.
That's true.
Music. We had some very forgettable numbers. We had Bette Midler's The Rose, Janis Joplin, Take Another Little Piece of My Heart, Now Baby, One Direction's Story of My Life, Lauryn Hill,
Doo-wop that thing.
And
Wake Me Up. Yeah. Challenging.
Rachel, what was your least favorite song?
I feel like I wanted to like The Rose, but I think the scene itself was so awkward. I was like, no.
That's like I think I probably won't listen to the cover, but like that song is like nice, but she just doesn't know how to read a room. I chose Wake Me Up because they made that song so much more depressing. Like at least the original is like kind of got a beat. Yeah, didn't like the slower version.
It just makes you realize how depressing the lyrics are.
Yeah, and like I didn't need that.
Well, especially because I mean the artist died, right?
I don't know.
Avicii died, yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My goodness.
I believe he took his life, unfortunately. So.
Yeah. So it just in that hindsight, the lyrics take on an even darker tone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, I floated Story of My Life. I floated The Rose. I think I'm gonna go with Wake Me Up. Because it's also just like, because of all this emotional baggage, I guess, of the song, you could have made it actually like a very poignant moment, but it's just someone who got their dream and it's like, it's not what I wanted, you know? So no, least favorite. Rachel, what was your favorite song?
Well, here to contradict us all again. I live in the sadness and I identify with the darkness, you know, and I feel like what they did, granted, I feel like they could have done it maybe a little differently even still, but I feel like I liked Wake Me Up because one, I was a kind of fan of his work as well. So, and just like knowing the story and seeing it kind of come out of that poppy thing and really get into more of it's that monotonous feel. And I feel like it kind of matched in a sense of what they sort of did of, you know, like just Rachel on the screen 2,000 times, you know, doing the same thing and kind of with this more really toned down version of it. I took it as like, it's definitely, I feel like not very Glee for this kind of song mix, but I kind of liked it for that reason because it was a little bit different compared to some of the other ones. I think it's always so cheery. So as pessimistic as it is, I feel like that one I kind of like because it was sort of more pessimistic. So
yeah,
that's valid.
Yeah. I went with Doo-wop That Thing. Honestly, I like the song. Cover's okay. Not my favorite Santana Mercedes not mashup, but duet. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Thank you. It's when two people get together instead of two songs. Got it. Yeah, I really liked it. I sang along. It's a really solid cover. So yeah.
I think I'm going with Thing That Will Please My Heart. I like that song. I like Blaine, and I like Shirley MacLaine, the actress.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, sure. I was like, I really didn't really enjoy any of the songs, but I was just like, I guess.
Yeah. It's a challenging week for music.
It's been like a challenging month for music.
Not a lot to pick from.
Yeah. And I literally was like, I struggled for about 5 minutes to think of a song to then judge and put on my list.
So that brings us to the end of our episode. Rachel, are there any social medias or projects you'd like to plug?
I definitely don't have a life outside of work, so listen to this podcast. There you go. Have another plug.
Aw, thanks. You can follow Gleeboot on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We are at Gleeboot Pod. You can also find us on Tumblr, gleebootpod.tumblr.com.
You can follow me on Instagram at Cullen of Rafter, and maybe see my failed YouTube career at your boy Ryan, or check out my still active TikTok, your boy Ryan 99.
Are we gonna pitch Allyssa this time?
Yeah, we are.
I think she's editing this episode too.
You can find Allyssa at
a
dot
dot
m dot
dot
s
w e a
r
I
n
N G E
n.
She posts art stuff. She's super talented. Yeah, check her out.
Tune in next week for the episode that was the environment was created was so toxic that Naira apparently Michelle never spoke again.
It's also the episode where we were on was it Gleek of the Week?
Where they sing Take Me Home Tonight with the dogs.
And they were like, okay, so you guys haven't gotten to this part yet. What do you think this is about? I was like, I figured it out, guys. I know exactly what's going on. I think I'll have to go back and re-listen to that episode so I have that story prepared for next week. And so I can retell it and see just how right or wrong I was. Did they tell us what it was?
They did, yeah.
I have already forgotten.
But your theory was that June Squibb had all these dogs. She was like a dog hoarder, and they were putting them all up for adoption.
And Kurt was like organizing the whole thing. Yeah. I mean, I was probably really close, right?
You were
Wasn't
actually
I?
pretty close. You were like 50% of the way there.
That's so funny. Anyway, tune in for me being sort of right.
And our special guests will be Glee Aggressive.
Glee aggressive,
Glee,
passive,
Glee
aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun. Another collab.
Another collab.
Mashup.
We're so into collabs. We're like 2013 YouTube.
Ow. Oof. That was painful to hear. But yeah, we totally are.
We're like a Tyler Oakley
We are
Miranda
peak
Sings collab.
millennial cringe. And that's the podcast.
The podcast. Rachel, thank you so much for coming on. You are the superior Rachel.
Mm-hmm. You are.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yay.
See you next week, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Gleeboot.